Rise and shine on Australia's Vision Christian Radio.
Alrighty, so this happened a long time ago, and it's where the Lord showed us there's no distance in prayer, you know. It doesn't matter how far away someone is, you can pray for them and, you know, the Holy Spirit can do the job. So me and my wife were just praying one morning, and my wife just suddenly said, "We're going to pray for Glenn Smith." He was like a cowboy evangelist in America, and we're in Australia. And I just looked at him and straight away I knew, we're going to pray for Glenn. So we started to pray for him. And then we just let it go. Then this was the day before mobile phones and, you know, a landline call, you know, to take out a mortgage for it.
Yes.
And so, like, it was about a month later we decided, you know what, we got to write to Glenn and find out if something happened on that day. So we wrote to him. And, like, weeks later we get this letter back from Glenn. He said, you'll probably believe this because you believe this. He said that on that day I was driving my car. I had a heart attack. I blacked out and went off the road, and I thought I was going to die. Wow. And he was lying there and just in his car and having this heart attack. And he said, Lord, is this the time I'm going home? And he had these words. He said, it's the first time he'd ever heard audible words, and the words were, "Because I live, you shall live also," which is a Bible quote. And they said, like the rocks and the trees said this, like when it was the Lord speaking to him, you know. And anyway, that's all right. He came good enough to get in his car and drive home. And when he got back to the office, he said people were ringing in from all over the place because he's really well known, this guy, and saying, "Glenn, there's something happened. So God had told all these different people to pray for Glenn, and we were one of them, the opposite side of the world. And I've still got the letter. He sent back a letter. So it's like 6 or 8 weeks later till we got this letter back and found all this out. And that God had got all these people to pray for him at that moment all over the world. People from Canada, Australia, and all over the US.
That's amazing, Brian. But can I ask, when you said to your wife, "We need to pray for Glenn," what does that feel like or look like? How did you know to pray? Just so our listeners can try and understand how we hear God's voice.
Sometimes God's voice is just like a thought or an impression, and we just often think it's just ourselves, but it is the Holy Spirit, you know. And I think that's just, you learn over time, whoa, this is God, you know. And it's just, I think it's just with experience and over time you think, wow, that even if it's not God, I'm going to go for it anyway. And then it turns out to be God, you know. It was the Holy Spirit speaking, you know.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.